Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up to the Angie success story, and I'm going to title this, What's the Harm? Okay, it's really a mindset video, some observations. So, hope everybody's well, and if you haven't watched the success story with Angie yet, that's yesterday's video. Please watch it. You may look at her symptoms and go, well, I didn't have EDS, I didn't have POTS, I didn't have, mast cell activation system, so this doesn't apply to me. Not going to watch it. Watch it. What Angie shows in that success story interview is how powerful a healing mindset and belief is, and a decision to input the right stuff into the brain and watch what happens. So, today's video is called What's the Harm? An Angie follow-up. So again, please watch that success story. And a lot of people are commenting, well, what did she do to heal? Where's her checklist? What was the main thing that she did to rewire her brain, right? She mentions neuroplasticity. I just want to state this. The concept, which I teach every day, look, she calls it, there was some brain training, rewiring, and I don't call my process brain training, nervous system work. I think that overcomplicates it. I just focus on the solution, the message that we're trying to convey to the brain, which is, I'm good. I got this. We're fine. Let me get back to life as much as I can, given my limitations. The brain takes care of the rewiring, right? So even though there may have been some conversation about rewiring the brain, neuroplasticity, brain training, the stuff I talk about daily does all of those things. I just don't label it that because I think that overcomplicates things. Because then people are sitting here going about the day like, how do I rewire my brain? And look, if that helps you to see this work in a different light, then by all means, view it as brain training, brain rewiring. But I think that makes it more complicated. And I think it causes people to perceive that we're broken in a different way. I got broken wires in my brain and I need to rewire them. Maybe factually correct that our brain has become wired for danger, wired for symptoms, wired for fear. Okay, got it. But we don't need to analyze that. We don't need to work specifically to rewiring. All right? My mom had a stroke. Little portion of her brain dead. Couldn't move her left arm, her left leg. Speech was off. The entire stroke rehabilitation process was about rewiring her brain around that dead portion of her brain. The doctors, the physical therapists, none of them spoke about rewiring the brain. They said, we're going to teach you to do this. Let's use your left hand to do this. Grab this, squeeze that, push it there. Let's do stacking cups. Nobody was talking about brain wiring, but that's exactly what was happening inside her brain, right? So if you're watching Angie's success story, don't get caught up in the details. People are like, well, can you bullet point it? Everything in my interview with her, my entire takeaway from that was based on the one statement that she made. You know, she was like, well, what's the harm in me deciding it's possible and committing to work in the program? The program was teaching her brain that she was safe, that she could get better. There was a lot of affirmations. There was a lot of not looping on negative thoughts. A lot of the stuff I teach. And if you listen to her, she says at one point during the interview, her work with Luann, her coach, and watching my daily videos, those two things combined are what helped her make the progress and get better. And she recovered from very measurable symptoms, legitimate medical conditions that had her, I'll say this, not to scare anybody or not to be negative, but she was on the brink of death. She was close to putting herself on hospice and waiting to die. She was on a feeding tube. She was on oxygen. She reacted to everything, including water. She was literally shut down. She had temporary paralysis of her body. She had spasmodic jerks. She had every craziness that you can imagine. 3 words. What's the harm in thinking differently? What's the harm in deciding I can get well? What's the harm in committing to this with everything she had? What's the harm in shutting out the negativity? What's the harm in not indulging in the fear? What's the harm? There is none. Only benefit. And I always use the phrase, there's no downside to conveying safety to your brain consistently, credibly, calmly, until it outweighs the brain's false perception of danger. What's the harm? Why are you not committing to the belief that you can get better? The fear, what if it doesn't work? What if it does? And your doubt is keeping you from the commitment and the belief necessary. But how can you get to 100% belief? You don't need 100% belief. Believe enough to take the steps to convey safety consistently. Right? Convey safety consistently. Now, Angie had a lot of things that she needed to do. In the description of the success story is her Instagram account. If you don't have Instagram, set up an account. Follow her. Go through and watch her, because she does share more about her journey. She does share more about her mindset and the things that helped her. There's no way she and I can cover everything that she dealt with in 6 months to recover from the brink of death to thriving. But go to Instagram and follow her. You know, the link is in the success story yesterday. And start observing. What does she do? What was her mindset? What was her belief? What were the behaviors? And I will say it again. What's the harm in taking on a belief that, yeah, this stuff is possible, right? This stuff is possible. She had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, where the connective tissues were massively affected, and she had mobile joints and ribs that would, all sorts of stuff. It affected her vascular system. Things became like jelly and too flexible. And that was all created by the mast cell activation syndrome, which released certain elastase enzymes which affected her connection tissues. These were legitimate physical things. Right? She had POTS, which had all sorts of symptoms. She was so dysregulated, she couldn't eat, she needed oxygen. All very measurable symptoms on exam, on tests, all quote-unquote real symptoms. But they were all caused by a brain and a dysregulated nervous system. When she committed to the nervous system work, which was essentially conveying safely, consistently, credibly, fueled by this belief and these 3 words, what's the harm? And she didn't give up. She didn't quit. She'd have tough days and she would stay on it. She would stick to it. She even said when she started some of these affirmations, I am well, I am healing. She couldn't get the words I am healing out. She couldn't. It just, her subconscious and her conscious just got stuck on those words. She couldn't say them. But she kept at it. What's the harm? What's the harm in saying those words? And she began saying these things often enough, consistently enough, to the point where she started to believe them. Right? And for the people who are like, well, I don't know how they can do that. How can you overcome the fear? Time, consistency, repetition, and making a commitment to do these things, even though you didn't believe it at first. The brain will believe what you think and say most often. What does that end up doing? Rewiring the brain. Okay? Nervous system work. Brain retraining. Yeah, we don't have to call it all that. When you convey safety credibly, consistently, calmly, with confidence, belief, and an attitude of what's the harm? There's no downside, only benefit. Why would you not do this? Why would you not look at a story like that and say, holy crap, if that's possible, I can surely get rid of my migraines, back pain, sciatica, dizziness, whatever it may be, I can get rid of that. If I can take on 1/10 of the mindset that she had to get rid of legitimate, real things that had her on the brink of death, you can do this stuff too. I guarantee it. Convey safety. Credibly, consistently. And ask yourself, when you're sitting there trying to muster up the courage or the belief to do this, ask yourself, what's the harm? What's the downside? There's only benefit. And you can create a completely different world. I tell you, go follow her on Instagram. I'll link it below, and it'll also be on the success story yesterday. Look at her Instagram posts. She is thriving. She's homeschooling her kids. She's living on a homestead. She's thriving. And not long ago, she didn't think she'd make it. Her husband was planning on burying his wife. One of the most compelling, inspiring stories I've ever heard in this mind-body space. If she can do it, you can do it. Whatever your symptoms are, you can do it. Right? It starts with a belief and a mindset and a can-do attitude and a never-quit attitude. And if you're battling your thoughts, don't believe them. Don't believe the negative, this won't work thing. Because if you're believing that, it's going to be really tough for you to allow your brain and body to recover from whatever you're dealing with. Never say never. It's all possible. I'm so impressed. Angie, thank you so much. You're such an inspiration to me and to so many others. And I'm proud of you. I'm humbled to be a part of your solution, to know that my daily videos were part of your journey. I'm thrilled, humbled, honored, all that. So folks, if you are struggling, take some inspiration from Angie. Follow her on Instagram. That's the best way to get more of her, because she does post on there. She does little videos, she does helpful tips, and you can do it too. So, I love you all, and as always, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.